Welcome to Q Up. This is the first of a series of shows we'll be doing on the Spokane River and the Coeur d'Alene watershed. And it is our responsibility to look carefully at this beautiful river as not only an asset to our community, but also the source of life for many around it, including us. So we're going to talk today about how the river, who runs through our beautiful city and all the way down from Lake Coeur d'Alene, became a bit of an issue. And Brian Walker, Kat Hall with the Land Council. Explain your function at the Land Council, and then, go ahead and explain a little bit about the Land Council.
All right, well, the Lands Council was actually founded about 30 years ago now by a group of doctors that were really interested in what was going on in the environment around them. They actually started seeing some of their patients coming back with diseases that were caused by an unhealthy environment.
And they were picking up toxins or something in their blood,
yeah,
or something that alerted these doctors?
Something that just wasn't seeming right to these doctors, and they became concerned that it was coming from the natural environment. So.
And Kat, what is your function in your...
I am the Environmental Health Program Director,
okay.
So I run a program that focuses on two things, cleaning up the environment and protecting people's health. And we kind of go on the very simple goal: if you have a healthy environment, you can have a healthy community, and we kind of go from there.
Now, in terms of how long ago, I believe at least nearly 100 years, we determined there's been some pollution into the Coeur d'Alene area, the lake, and the Coeur d'Alene River flows down all the way to the Spokane River. We have a map here that shows this huge area. Brian, if you'd like to explain a little bit about the area that is...
Historically, the mining district in Kellogg, Wallace, Idaho, actually quite a ways up into the Coeur d'Alene River, that was where a lot of this actually started. There were quite a few mining sites, milling sites, smeltering sites within these four small communities. Historically, there wasn't a lot of regulation on the mining industry back in the 1890s, the early
right.
1900s. There was not a lot going on. And so now we're actually starting to see that this mining contamination is moving from the Silver Valley down into Coeur d'Alene Lake. It's kind of flowing up through Coeur d'Alene Lake through the northern section and into the Spokane River, and it actually ends up all the way down in Lake Roosevelt of the Columbia River.
Now that's what, about 120 miles or more?
Yeah, it's around that.
And I believe you said how many square miles?
The Spokane River watershed, so this entire area is actually 1,500 square miles.
So this is a huge area, and I understand that it has been the target of, what, 3 Superfunds as far as trying to assist in this contamination cleanup?
There's actually one Superfund site, and that's actually the Bunker Hill. It's referred to as the Bunker Hill Superfund site. But it actually is broken into 3 separate cleanup plans.
Okay, maybe that's where I heard the 3 from.
Right, there's Operable Unit 1, which is within that first area, and that's the human populated area. There's Operable Unit 2, which is the unpopulated area in that first spot. And then Operable Unit 3 was the most recent development in 2002 that actually addresses mining waste that came from the valley that has been located throughout the Coeur d'Alene, throughout Coeur d'Alene Lake and the Spokane River.
Now, it's my understanding that in order to qualify as a Superfund site, you have to have quite a bit of an issue going on, correct?
That's correct.
It's large enough to get the attention of federal funding. And
right. This is actually the largest Superfund site in the United States. So it is huge.
So in our own backyard, we really need to look at what's happened to the lake and the rivers, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Now, what has, in your estimation, Kat, what has a Superfund, some of the monies, because I understand right now there's really no more funding being applied to the cleanup, correct?
I think that's more of a question for you, Brian.
Yeah, right now the Superfund actually is not authorized. Historically, the Superfund was a tax on chemical producers. They were taxed. That money went into a government fund called the Superfund under the CERCLA Act, or the Comprehensive Environmental, help me with this one.
Response and
Comprehensive Environmental Response Liability
yeah.
Act.
Okay, that sounds like it. Right.
It's a milk.
So historically, that money was being put into that fund, and then anytime sites were designated as a Superfund site, money could be pulled out of that fund and used for cleanup practices. I think it's been the last 10 years, the Superfund hasn't been authorized, so taxes from these chemical producers haven't been going into that, and it's pretty much dried up now. There's an annual earmark from the government that goes into the Superfund, but that's spread out throughout the entire United States.
So to consider that we had an issue that was bad enough to have a Superfund authorized, and now it's almost been 10 years, you say, since we have not had additional funds for this cleanup process. What's happened in 10 years, you know?
What's happened in the Silver Valley in 10 years? There is actually several funding sources that was looked at by EPA. One is some Clean Water Act money that was granted to this project to go and look at cleanup possibilities. There is still some Superfund money that's, like I said, been earmarked. And so EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has been going in and cleaning up some of the larger sites. Mill sites, smelting facilities, mines themselves, and areas that have just been abandoned to be reclaimed naturally. And so EPA has had to come in and clean these sites up.
So we have had that continuing effort going on through
Yes,
the EPA, like you said.
There is continuing effort, but at a much lower funding.
What do they do with contaminants and how do they capture them?
In the Silver Valley, there was actually a record of decision that comes with this process. And it was decided that all the material would be located in repositories. Basically, they go out to these small sites, they collect the material and bring them back to larger individual sites. The largest in the Silver Valley is the Central Impoundment Area inside of Kellogg. And it is a very, very large repository for some of this mining waste.
Now, the mining waste, how long is it going to need to just sit there? And is it harmful as it sits there?
These repositories will actually be monitored forever.
Oh, my gosh, because of what? Explain. What is sitting there? What metals?
What's sitting there? There's lead, cadmium, zinc, arsenic, and mercury. So some very, very toxic metals.
Those are bads.
Very, very.
Really bads, right? We're educated enough now as a general public, I believe, about mercury, lead, and arsenic, and maybe zinc and cadmium, not so much. But we're aware these are not good and healthy for our environment or for us, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
We're going to continue to talk some more about what effect it's had on the tribes and the fishing and get into those details, but we'll carry on.
Thanks.
We're continuing to talk with Kat Hall and Brian Walker of the Land Council about the Spokane River and the issues that we face with this beautiful river that runs through our city of Spokane and starts out way up at the Lake Coeur d'Alene, another beautiful area that we have as a natural resource. Brian, I wanted to just kind of touch base again about the fact that this whole area over, 121 miles from up here in the Silver
Valley, correct.
Valley area is affected by the mines, by the toxins that have been released. And bring us up to date about the chemicals that are synthetic, not the heavy metals that we know of, are those minerals that are in the water now, but the things that even we've contributed.
More recently, EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Washington State Department of Ecology have been focusing on PBDs, PBDEs, dioxins, and furans. Those are all synthetic chemicals from flame retardants, transformer, insulation, electrical equipment insulation, and then some other just process chemicals that are released into our watershed.
Do some of the fertilizers and pesticides that we may use on our lawns, do they